Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. Hope everyone is doing well out there this morning and having a great start to your day and a great week out there so far. Here to bring you the latest on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Wednesday. Rinse and repeat type pattern. We're going to have widespread showers and storms for some of the same similar areas. Some folks have a little bit higher of a risk of severe weather than others, a little bit higher risk of flooding than others. So we'll certainly highlight those areas in this video, but we'll talk about everybody else too across the lower 48 and get you guys covered. And then at the end of the video, we'll give you an update on the severe weather days to come and if there really is any, and then an update on the tropics. And we'll kind of give you some new information than what we've been showing you guys. I am watching, I wouldn't say that there's any kind of favorability or anything like that, or any, I would say a trend is the word I'm really trying to search for this morning. But I do want to show you like the European model that is showing the possibility of maybe a tropical wave developing maybe over a week out. It is hinting at something. So is this the sign of things upticking? We don't want to talk something to death that really isn't worth talking about, but we do want to watch those small scale changes in the model guidance kind of way out to see is it going to begin to pick up on that favorable time frame, which is really heading into August that we've been watching for and talking about a little bit. So we'll kind of compare some model guidance, show you some ensemble guidance, and then we'll take a look at a typhoon out in the Pacific and what that means downstream as a favorable phase kind of makes its way across the Pacific into the Atlantic. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. I've been struggling sleeping lately. 2 nights ago, I just could not go to sleep. I don't know why. It's always took me a little bit extra time to go to sleep at night. I'm definitely not one of those people that can just lay my head on my pillow and go to sleep in 60 seconds. My wife has the capability of doing that, and a lot of people do, but I'm not. I have to lay there for about 30 minutes, But 2 nights ago, it took me about an hour and a half. Then last night, we had an incredible late night summer thunderstorm that had my dog going crazy. It even had me up because, I mean, it was loud, and of course, it did not budge my kids or my wife, but it certainly had me up for about 30 to 45 minutes overnight. So just have not been getting a lot of sleep lately. So if you notice just my energy being off, that's because that is the reason. So let's get rocking and rolling this morning. If I didn't ask for prayer requests, if you guys got anything that I can pray about, please put those in the comments. I might have just doubled up on that. But anyways, it's worth doubling up on, of course. But rain out there continues to move in from the southwest to the northeast across some of the same areas. It's a lot more widespread this morning, raining like crazy across areas of the Texas coastline. A lot of rain in Louisiana, Mississippi. As far north as like Little Rock and Memphis. Got some light rain showing up on radar. Not sure what's actually falling out there across Tennessee. You guys let me know. Some heavier rain across West Virginia and just the Appalachian mountains here. We got some rain along the Carolina coastline. This is the leftover energy that kind of surged over my house last night. It was just after midnight, folks. We picked up over 2 inches of rain in like 30 to 40 minutes. And that was one of the main reasons I was kind of up. My house kind of sits at a very, I wouldn't say in a low spot, but there's certain areas of my house that you have to watch, and we get rain really, really fast. A lot of rain in a very small window of time. You kind of have to watch certain areas of my house, so it always has me a little bit concerned. Anxiety ticks up just a little bit, but it's not a big deal. I woke up this morning, everything looked fine, but a little bit of rain trying to get into the northeast. We'll watch to see if the atmosphere can clear out. We might have a shot at some strong to severe storms across the mid-Atlantic, the Ohio Valley, and areas of the interior New England region. Out west, it's pretty quiet. We do have a little rain in southern Nevada, a little bit of energy surging through the Midwest, and a good bit of energy surging through areas of Ontario and then moving into Quebec this morning. So that's what's going on right now as far as watches, warnings, and advisories. Flood watches have actually been issued in my neck of the woods here in central South Carolina, all the way down to Augusta, like 2 counties in almost called, said Atlanta as a state, 2 counties in Georgia, and then central to sort of east central areas of North Carolina do have flood watches up, some dense fog advisories up in Maine, and then we do have those flood watches, and rightfully so, for areas of southeastern Texas, and then a couple areas. Always have to remember you guys have parishes in Louisiana, but the southwest sections of Louisiana. A lot of rain could fall here in the next 48 hours. I know you guys can't see it, but there's nothing going on in Florida. My head always kind of covers up the southern tip of Florida. And then we do have the heat alerts out here in the western U.S., the Rockies, excessive heat warnings in eastern sections of Montana where we'll get well into the low 100s. Heat advisories have oozed into areas of the Dakotas. Red flag warnings in the pink color, so dry, hot, very hot compared to average for you folks in the northern Rockies. And then we continue to have the excessive heat warnings. Seems like every day this summer we've had it down here in the southwest areas of California, Arizona, and Nevada. So we continue to move forward. The chances of flash flooding are a little bit higher today, a little bit more widespread. We do have a moderate risk. I think up to a half a foot of rain could fall from Houston to almost Lake Charles down here in Texas and Louisiana. But that little very small area of red, that is at least a 40% chance of flash flood guidance being exceeded within 25 miles in a given location. Then we have this just long area in yellow, which is a 15% risk of that. So we got a legit shot at flooding for a lot of people today, and then a very large area has at least that 5% risk. It really tells you that the U.S., as far as the eastern U.S., even areas of southwest, is just loaded with moisture. The atmosphere is definitely soaked out there, and it's just a very wet pattern, especially across the eastern U.S. So we continue to move forward. There is a couple areas to watch for severe weather, and the thing that concerns me about this marginal risk in the northern Rockies is the fact that it's very dry. So, you know, if we're going to get storms, we need to get storms up here. We need to get rain. We don't just need to get random lightning bolts starting wildfires up here in Idaho, Montana, and even areas of Oregon. So hopefully we can get some widespread rain, and I will talk about this area when we get to the western timestamp, western U.S. timestamp. There is a risk of severe weather from Flagstaff to Phoenix to Tucson down Arizona. And then we got to watch from the Midwest all the way through areas of the Ohio Valley, and then the interior Northeast down to the Mid-Atlantic, back down to almost Charlotte. We've had some big storms in the Carolinas, Virginia over the last few days. For example, my house got rocked last night, and I know I've said this like 3 times, but we only had a general risk of thunderstorms, so it can happen. So a few areas to watch out for today for sure, and these areas just have a risk of gusty winds, hail. There's no 2% risk of a tornado in this kind of setup. So a broad look at the southeast. We'll break this down first, and we'll kind of zoom through this, and then we'll zoom into a couple areas. But we'll get into early this afternoon. Look at this just widespread corridor of rain making its way from Texas, Louisiana, through the deep south states, Alabama, Mississippi, up to the Cumberland Plateau of Tennessee. More so just pop-up activity down here in southern Alabama, southwest Georgia, panhandle of Florida. This really starts getting going here later tonight, I would say around lunchtime or just after along central Georgia, central South Carolina. We got some storms up here in North Carolina, southeast VA, widespread activity in Alabama. And then this will continue into the overnight hours. We're going to continue to get a lot of activity. But let's just go on and zoom into these areas. So the deep south first. This morning, of course, we're dealing with the rain. We'll take it to about early afternoon. Alexandria down to Lake Charles, maybe all the way up to Shreveport. More splotchy activity in Baton Rouge, New Orleans. Just widespread shower and storm activity continues to kind of move over to some of the same similar areas. Once you get down to like Hattiesburg, Montgomery, Pensacola, the Panhandle, Florida, Auburn, Dothan, even Birmingham, this is more just kind of pop-up activity as basically the atmosphere gets kind of worked up here from the morning rain and early afternoon rain. So I really think things will actually calm down by about dinner time up here, but we'll kind of get refired down here in southern Alabama, southern Mississippi. So if you live kind of south of Birmingham down to Meridian, Hattiesburg, Mobile, I think it's going to be a stormy evening for you guys around 7 to 8 p.m. And some of this will surge into Atlanta and central and northern Georgia throughout the late evening and overnight hours. And then we'll wake up tomorrow morning and possibly be doing it again in these areas right here. So rainfall between now and the next 24 hours. We're just going to go the blend of all models because the National Weather Service graphics do not agree with one another. It's kind of weird and splotchy and glitchy looking. But the rain that's falling this morning is certainly going to add up. And this is more so this area right here, central Louisiana and the central Mississippi. A lot of rain, 1 to 2 inches of rain. Southern sections of Alabama, 1/2 inch to 1 inch of rain, maybe more. And this more so falls this evening. And, it does show some highlight areas of some heavy rainfall in the panhandle of Florida. But in general, this entire area has a shot at rain either between this morning or tonight, this evening. So We move into our friends here in the Carolinas. There could be more of a severe element to these storms today, especially in North Carolina. But, we'll take it till about midday. Could get some peaks of sunshine, kind of just like the last several days, For example, my neighbor, just, always one good side story. She told my wife that she thinks it's going to rain all day Thursday. And I had to tell her it never rains all day in the summer in the South. Ever. I mean, I can't even remember one time, unless you're dealing with a tropical system, where it rains all day in the summer. It blows my mind how people just really forget that, even on a day where you have an 80% chance of rain in the summer, it's not going to rain from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. Hardly ever. You get breaks. Sometimes you get sunshine. And we're kind of in that pattern where you think it's going to rain all day, but it's not. And a lot of people in the coastal regions, they're at the beach or whatever it is, they're like, Mitch, is it going to be a washout? It's never a washout in the summer. Now, it can go from cloudy, overcast, kind of sunny to a washout in about 10 to 15 minutes flat and be like a monsoon. But an entire day washout hardly ever happens in the South. And this is just how it is. We get to about midday today, not a whole lot going on. But then we start to get into like 6, 7, 8 p.m. And this is when you start to see, and there's like leftover boundaries kind of from the day before. So I do think from Augusta, Columbia, probably up to Charlotte, Florence, the HRRR model highlighting this corridor of widespread heavy rain, storm activity, splotchy activity up here in North Carolina, Virginia. But listen, the models don't always get this right. I mean, the NAM might show more of a favorable situation of what could happen. But in general, when you look at these short-range models, they're just guidance, guys. It's very tough in the summer to figure out exactly where these storms are going to fire. But just know that this entire area I'm showing you on your screen has a shot at storms today. But, we start to get into like after midnight, once again, dealing with this surge of moisture. So even as you go to bed tonight, expect to be woken up in certain areas. Don't be surprised with more storm activity into the overnight hours, kind of like I was last night. And we could be waking up to a lot of rain in North Carolina, getting into southern Virginia and South Carolina tomorrow morning. So rainfall between now and the next 24 hours. It does favor like this area in southeast Georgia. It does show kind of a cutoff. Columbia points south. For example, the southern Midlands, low country of South Carolina, a couple inches of rain, and it does favor the Piedmont over to northeast North Carolina with the most rain today, maybe over an inch. But for example, I mean, it was only showing about a quarter inch at my house yesterday, and I ended up getting over 2 inches of rain in about 30 minutes flat overnight just after midnight. So northeast, a pretty active day of weather too. We got this low kind of flying off across Ontario and Quebec up here. This is probably going to get some storms going. And by the way, I just want to say thank you to the people who tune in from Canada, because I don't get detailed about you guys at all. I've had multiple people say that they tune in from like Ontario, Southern Ontario. Thank you very much. I know I don't get detail, and I know my folks in like Atlantic Canada, Providence's areas, the New Brunswick, Nova Scotias of the world, and all you fine folks up there. I know that you guys really start to tune in when you guys have threats of nor'easters and these tropical systems that can kind of meander their way across the North Atlantic and impact you guys. But thank you for continuing to tune in. The people that are, that's really awesome that you do that. And you guys in Canada are just always are very, very nice and polite. But you getting into about midday, we can get some storms in southern Ontario, and then we start to get into this afternoon. And widespread storms across New York, starting to get into the Vermont. Big storms maybe up here in Quebec are rolling through. And then we're getting some storms down here in the mid-Atlantic. And really any of these could be strong to severe, guys. Could produce some frequent lightning, some small hail. Flooding is possible. And could develop into a little bit of a line later this evening across kind of just, I would say, east of the Finger Lakes region, getting into, the Catskills, Poconos. You guys can start to get the impact from this, and then this will kind of weaken with the loss of daytime heating, get into the overnight hours. A little bit closer look at the mid-Atlantic clearing, kind of like the southeast today, and then the storms start to refire. DC, Richmond, northern VA areas of West Virginia, up to Pittsburgh, Binghamton, Baltimore, Philadelphia, and New York City. You guys could get the storms today, but, it's going to be hard to figure out who gets it. If you do, They could be strong to severe. Anywhere in this area could get it today. I do want to watch to see if these kind of develop into this line up here in New York, northeast Pennsylvania, but we'll have to watch for this. You know, I will compare this to maybe like the NAM. What is the NAM showing today? Back this up. NAM wants some action firing up as early as like early afternoon in eastern PA, some spotty activity, and then it's not a whole lot different. It's not even really, wasn't really even worth comparing to, honestly. Show some action in western PA, a little bit of action in southeast PA. A little bit more of a concentrated area of storms rumbling through the eastern half of Virginia. But in general, guys, like I said, it'll be tough to figure out who gets what today. Now, moving a little bit further north, I do think we're going to get some big boomers up here from Buffalo to Rochester, Syracuse, Tuckhill Plateau, the Adirondacks, the Finger Lakes region. You know, I would say that from the Finger Lakes region to Vermont probably is the favorite area right into here. But some storms will be rumbling through today. Nothing like what you saw a few weeks ago where we had the tornado outbreak from the remnants of Beryl. Nothing like that, but you are going to get just your classic day of summer thunderstorms up here. So if you like a good old summer thunderstorm in New York State, Vermont, you're certainly going to get it, but some of these will run the risk of severe weather, and here they are. We know we're starting to get into 8, 9 p.m. Storms moving through, are getting close like to the Albany area, moving through the Finger Lakes region, and then we're done with it. You know, it's all how much rain could fall up here. I'm going to do this on the fly for you folks. This is between now and the next 24 hours, and it does highlight central New York for the most rain. So like Syracuse down to Binghamton over to Albany. Somebody could get a ½ inch to maybe a little over an inch of rain. So the south central U.S., broad look at things. Don't want to miss nobody. And most of the action is down here along the coastal regions of Texas. And I will zoom into I know I'm leaving some people out in southern Texas. I got you covered. But just moisture will continue to grind down or up the Texas coastline into Louisiana. And we'll even get this little bit of a swirl in place. Just a solid flow of Gulf tropical air, moist air, enough lift in the atmosphere, and you just continue to get these tropical downpours. It'll continue even into tomorrow. So, but I would say up here in Oklahoma, Kansas today, let's back it up a little bit. The rest of Texas, central points west of areas of Texas, you know, Missouri, Kansas, even Colorado and New Mexico is a lot more quiet today. Not a whole lot going on. It really isn't. But just to zoom into our friends down here in Texas, and this is the southern half of the state, you know, dealing with the action this morning. You'll continue to deal with it. You know, this is about early afternoon, still storming from Brownsville. And, you know, it might not storm all day. Now, you want to talk about a washout all day? If there's any area that's going to get it, it's going to be along the Texas coastline. Now, it could rain all day, but it most likely will have breaks in between. But it will feel like it's raining all day because it'll stay soggy all day in this area. But, you know, Houston, steady light to moderate rain this evening. And you keep on going here, and things might calm down later tonight and then get refired up a little bit later overnight into tomorrow morning. We're dealing with storms once again along the Texas coastline. And then we're going to do it again tomorrow afternoon. Another surge of moisture kind of moves through the area. So rainfall between now and the next 48 hours. We're going to go a little bit further out. Brownsville could get 2 inches. I mean, Corpus Christi, the Padre Island area, a few inches of rain. Victoria, same thing. You know, up to Houston. Once you get east of Houston, that's when you can start to, you know, run the risk of like a ½ a foot of rain. A lot of rain. But you notice a lot of this action doesn't get very far inland. So, but a little bit further up the road, just to kind of zoom in on our friends in Louisiana. And a lot of rain continues throughout the morning, getting into the afternoon hours. Like I said, if it's going to rain all day anywhere, it's going to be kind of like between Houston and Lake Charles. Whoever lives in this area right here, you're going to run the risk of just raining all day. At least just getting some sprinkles if it does slow down at all. And then you do get a little bit of break overnight tonight. And then you wake up tomorrow morning and you could be dealing with some big storms again. And then we'll just continue to have a soggy day for our Thursday too. So a lot of rain, and look, just a little bit of more of a zoomed in look here. Houston, Lake Charles over here, this area right in between. 5, 6, 7 inches of rain over the next 48 hours is possible, guys. So a lot of rain. North central U.S., not a whole lot going on. There is that marginal risk that kind of goes through eastern Iowa, through the northern half of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, small section of lower Michigan. But I don't expect this to be a widespread storm setup today. There's those storms kind of moving out of Iowa into areas of Illinois and then Indiana. And then overnight, they try to make it into Ohio by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning. But everybody else is quiet. There's nothing going on today. But I will zoom into our friends down here and kind of compare the HRRR model with the NAM model. And there are those storms, can't talk, around 6 p.m. and central to north central Illinois. These could be strong to severe. And some of this action could make it all the way down to Indianapolis, around midnight tonight, maybe earlier. And there could be a more organized area of storms kind of surging through central Indiana, making it into southwestern Ohio by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning. Now, we compare this with the NAM. Let's see. I hadn't even looked at the NAM, to be honest, with this area, but it will be interesting to see how different or similar they are. But it is kind of similar in the sense that not a whole lot pops up. But about this afternoon, around 5 p.m., it's a little bit more widespread with the activity. But it has this corridor of showers and storms from central Illinois through like the Indianapolis area, central Indiana, and then all the way into Ohio. But in general, just not very widespread. It's just if anything does fire, the ingredients are there for a little bit higher of a risk of strong to severe storms. So the Rockies today, the good news is there's a chance for rain in areas that need it. For example, we'll take it all the way to about 4 or 5 p.m. And we're getting rain down here in Nevada, some rain here in eastern Oregon. Look at this rain getting close up to our people who really need it in western and southwestern Montana. And chances are this will get there. And then we get into like late this evening and could get a nice push of moisture into southwestern Montana, an area that is under severe drought conditions depending on where you live. A nice flow right over Idaho, Nevada late tonight, and then this will diminish. The thing we worry about is if we're going to get any rogue lightning strikes to pop off any wildfires up here in the northern Rockies. We certainly don't want that. But, the National Weather Service really isn't buying much rain over the next 48 hours. But I do think there will be some areas in western Montana that certainly will have an opportunity for some rain, that's for sure. So, moving into temperatures, a little bit of a pool of cooler air up here in the Midwest, upper Midwest region. So just highs in the 70s. Enjoy your nice weather up here. You can see where there's a corridor of rain and clouds here from the deep south all the way to the mid-south across the Appalachian Mountains. So I almost said cooler and rainier. Cooler and rainier in this area today, but it will have an opportunity to heat up in the southeast before any kind of more storm activity does fire. So maybe some 80s and 90s. And it is starting to heat back up in the middle of the country. 90s starting to get pushed back into the picture, and then it is getting brutally hot. Montana might be one of the hottest places across the lower 48, besides Death Valley and our folks in the desert regions of the Southwest. But, man, Montana is going to be blistering hot today. Very hot conditions, brutally hot, low 100s, and, of course, once again, it's another hot day in the Valley of California. Even, it could hit 110 maybe today in like the lower elevations of like Idaho. So pretty wild stuff there. But looking at the severe weather days to come, this is for tomorrow for our Thursday. Light green, general risk of thunderstorms. Dark green, level 1 out of 5 of marginal risk. And it's highlighted right over a pretty highly populated area, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and the D.C. region. So we will watch this area, and this could change. There could be more areas introduced. This could broaden, extend out a little bit more, but there is a risk of strong to severe storms, a little bit higher of a risk in that dark green area. But we're not really getting slight risk much right now, so just a marginal risk. And then we get into our Friday, just a general risk, but there could be, I would bet that there will be a marginal risk probably issued somewhere in these areas, but for now, just general risk of thunderstorms. So update on the tropics, guys. We'll continue just to pump these updates out, but tropical cyclone activity is not expected during the next 7 days, so there's nothing we're watching over the next 7 days. Still quiet. I do want to show you guys this. So the Europeans showed us some signs that a favorable time period is coming up, favorable phase, and then it continued to show some signs overnight. So what we're looking at here is what we call the 850 volt max. So this shows energy in the low levels of the atmosphere, kind of that. It'll show us like where a low level spin would be about a mile up in the atmosphere. So it's a great way to look for a tropical wave, whether it has a fully closed low level circulation or doesn't. Either way, it's just a great way to look at energy in the low levels of the atmosphere. So if you look right here, there is an area of yellow showing up east of the Lesser Antilles. Okay, and if we keep this in motion, this is getting into next Tuesday. So this is pretty far out, last couple days of July. This wave continues to move across areas of like it's starting to move into the Caribbean, kind of starting to move right over like Puerto Rico. So this is about a week from today, pretty far out, right? And if you look at these wind barbs, there is a little bit of broad rotation in the low levels of the atmosphere. So this is a full-fledged kind of open, somewhat trying to be closed tropical wave. Now, this rolls right over the Greater Antilles, like the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Hispaniola, okay? And then this continues to roll right over Cuba. And I know that this looks kind of bright and maybe alarming to some people on your screen, as you have this kind of bright, vibrant orange, reddish looking color right over Cuba. But this is the little features that we have to watch. This is just a weak, low pressure. And one would argue that this would be a little bit stronger if it wasn't legitimately going over all the land masses of the Greater Antilles, Hispaniola, Cuba. But, you look at the run prior to this, and from the 12Z yesterday, had the same feature, right? But it turns this and gets a little bit stronger. I mean, still just a tropical wave, tropical depression, but it's a little bit further north and gets north of the Greater Antilles and gets into the Bahamas. So this is something we need to watch, no doubt. Need to just kind of figure out. But is it concerning? No. And if you compare it to the GFS, there's nothing there. There's no wave. There's just nothing there. Normally the GFS is the one that's aggressive with this kind of stuff. So the fact that the European shows it makes you want to just kind of tip your head toward just a little bit more. But it does make sense, as I think it'll take until about day 10 into August for things really start to have an opportunity to really pick up. But it does show you that there is, in the process of a favorable phase, starting to enter this area by the time we get into about 10 days out from now. And we have to watch that. Let's see if the European kind of continues to do anything with that. And there is a little signal from the European ensemble. Remember, this makes up 51 members. And folks, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. About 14 members out of 51 that show something. So a pretty low signal. We'll have to see if this increases. Okay. Now, I will mention, we need to pray for our folks here, and I should have mentioned this in the beginning. In Taiwan, was it Typhoon Gamey, I think is how you pronounce it. I think, you correct me if I'm saying it wrong. I looked it up on YouTube, and that's how they said it, unless I already forgot. But I think Typhoon Gamey, I'll be honest, not completely sure of what was the strength of this typhoon when it made landfall, but it looked very strong, very scary right before it made landfall. Looked like it was possibly weakening upon landfall, so that's good. Weakening tropical system making landfall packs much less of a punch than the strengthening one, but I'm sure that we're going to get reports of damage. But it's definitely hitting Taiwan right now. So this is, and I show you this because this is way out in the Western Pacific, right? What's the kind of the favorable MJO phase of rising air that's allowing for this really to get going, gaming out here, is eventually going to work completely across the Pacific and get to the Atlantic. So I think we're going to see more of this and more of our neck of the woods inevitably at some point. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Y'all have a wonderful day.